So in this video, what we would do is we're going to want to talk about the anatomy of a URL of an app. Okay, so here's the app that I've created, and you can go into the make.powerapps experience, go into the apps, and if you click on this application ellipsis, one of the items that you'll see there is the details link, and inside of the details you'll find that there is a web link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and then let's just copy the address out, and let's kind of break this down and let's see what this is, right? So after the powerapps.com, I'm going to leave this /play. We're going to come to the first question mark because that's essentially the first parameter that's being provided. And so we'll leave that there, and let's remove the question mark. Okay, now let's talk about what each of these are. So this right here is the base URL. That's the base URL for the Power Apps platform experience as it relates to applications that are in the United States and on the Power Platform. If you're in the UK or Europe or China or any other country, I believe that this URL does change. I've seen it change, so just make sure you take note of whatever the base URL is for your country or your area where the app is in the environment. Okay, the next item, this play / and this weird looking number, okay, this weird looking number, alphanumeric number, is called a GUID, and it's a not graphical, globally unique identifier. And so what that means is it's basically a unique number that is supposed to be unique just for this particular application that was created. And then we have a tenant ID, and a tenant is your tenant in Azure typically, or Office 365 in this case. And then you have environments, and then inside of the environments you have the application. So the tenant ID is basically the main billing account essentially for where this application lives. So far so good, everything's good and simple, but there is a bunch of different variables, parameters rather, to this that get kind of stacked on depending on what you're seeing or how you launch these. So I'm going to show you a couple of tricks. So let's just say you start here, right, and you copy this out, and then you go to on screen. Now watch the URL, right? All of a sudden it was the same, and then this thing got tacked on. And that is the next item that I want to talk to you about in the next video. So we're going to collapse all of these 3 videos into this big one video. And so we're going to talk about skip, and this skip add metadata equals true. So let's put a line here. Whoops. Let's put a line here, and let's talk about this particular item. Okay, skip app metadata. So let's talk about what is skip app metadata, or better yet, what is metadata or app metadata. So app metadata is essentially the data about the application, and it keeps track of things very specifically, like when it was published, or if it's published. Maybe the version that you're running in the browser is older than the version that's actually running and or available to you. And so what you'll need to do is occasionally, if you have this set to true, it says skip the app metadata. In other words, it's not going to look and see if it's the latest and greatest version. It's simply just going to run it based on the last known instance that you had, or the last known instance that was run. And so as a developer, if you're making constant changes and going through this, and you're frustrated because you can't get the changes to show up in the browser, this parameter is supposed to, or is meant to, solve this problem. So you would change true to false. And so what that says is don't skip it. Go out and see if I have the latest and greatest information. Okay? So that's what I'm supposed to tell you because that's what it means technically. However, the reality is, and in my testing, here's what I've experienced. If I'm out and I make a publish, I make a change to the app, and then I go ahead and I publish it. And let's actually do this right now. I'll do something, I guess, kind of crazy. Not too crazy, but just crazy enough so that you can at least see a visible difference. So let me do, come on. You can do it. Okay, we're gonna have to skip this. All right, let's go through here. Okay, let's insert an item. Let's just do an icon, right? That's easy enough. We'll do this big circle. So let's put this big circle like this, and let's just say we want to save that. All right, so now I've got this saved. I'm going to go ahead and publish this version. Okay, great. I refresh the screen. I should see that big honking X. Bump, 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 bump. What's going on? What happened? And you're like, I don't know what happened. And even if you know about this variable, you may say, oh, skip app metadata equals true. So you'll say, okay, well, let's just set this to false because that's what David said, or it's because I already knew this. And so if I hit enter, lo and behold, magically, the X should appear. And it doesn't. So you're like, what is going on? I explicitly told it not to get the metadata. Why is this actually not working? So I run it again. Oh, look at there. Lo and behold, all of a sudden it happened. And so you saw that even though I triggered it as false and the false went to true, it didn't seem to work, and it's just no rhyme or reason. So even though I included this in the video because I want you to understand that it's there, and there may be a bug here because this is actually relatively new, this variable that showed up, I think, within the last 6 months or 3 months. My experience is this. So I'm going to do the opposite, where I'm going to go into the app and watch what happens. I'm going to leave this app metadata, skip app metadata equals true, and I'm just going to leave it there like this, right? I use what's called the 10-second rule because 10 seconds, at least for this particular environment and in most environments, seems to work. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete this out. So I've now made another change. I'm going to save, I'm going to publish, and as soon as I hit publish and the publication is done, so here we go, publishing now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so now I'm going to come over the screen. I'm not going to change anything. I'm not done anything. I'm just going to hit F5 on the keyboard to do a refresh. And lo and behold, this should load, and it's gone. And it is. And I didn't change anything. So for me, and maybe for you, I would say the 10-second rules works more consistently than toggling or tripping this variable. Just know that it's there, because if the behavior changes in the future, this is the first thing you want to kind of track and you want to keep your eye on. So again, skip app metadata. It's huge, okay? So let's move on to the next parameter. And so the next parameter, I'm going to remove the skip app metadata equals true, and we're going to put another lesser known variable in there. And there's very little, if any, documentation on this. I mean, it exists mostly in the forums, but nonetheless, this is something I run through quite often. So hide Nav Bar equals true. And you may be saying, well, what is this going to do, right? Okay, the Nav Bar is this purple bar at the top. Okay, so I have a slight case of ADHD or ADD where I have a hard time focusing on things. I get distracted easily. And so as a result of that, you know, if I'm in an app and I'm doing whatever, I get curious. Like, I'm curious about everything. Like, what does this do? What does that do, right? That's why I love technology, right? And so the problem, though, is if I'm in an app as a user, hey, oh, that's cool. What does this do? Ooh, look at this. Here's a shiny new toy. What happens if I click that? Oh, dang it, I got out of my app. Well, let me go over here. Oh, that's not the app. Well, let me go back. And now maybe they lost their data because they didn't hit save or something, right? And so to take the distractions away from people, this is where you want to use that hide nav bar trick. So it's hide nav bar equals true, and as soon as I do that, it's going to refresh the screen, but that purple bar at the top is going to disappear. That's the precursor for the next video that I want to show you on how do you create a installable desktop application like experience for somebody. And using this trick along with a couple other tricks, we'll put an icon on the desktop, custom icon on top of that, and we'll make it kind of look really unique and different so that they can deploy out this application much like they would. Even though they're really not deploying it, all they're doing is really installing a shortcut on your desktop. Okay, so we'll see in the next video where we get into that in a lot more detail.